Yo, welcome back to another episode of What to Do.
Yes, sir. We stay true.
Hey, we got yet another amazing, wonderful guest on today. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, I guess. How y'all doing? Been checking in. Obviously, I'm, one of the hosts here. My name's Izon. If y'all don't know, and I guess today I'm being interviewed. So
Yeah, man, you excited? You excited?
I'm a little nervous to be honest with you, but because I really,
Hey,
he
that's
didn't really
good.
give me
That
too
means
much
that means you
information.
care. Yeah. I mean, hey, I like it. I wanted it to be a surprise a little bit. You know it.
Nah, it makes it authentic. So nah, yeah. I mean, this is how we do everybody else. So honestly, it's kind of karma for us putting everybody else on the spot when we do interviews with them. But it gets that staying true side of the intro.
Right. Well, man, really, what I kind of wanted to talk to you about today. So, I mean, I've seen a lot of videos like on social media and whatnot, just the kind of about, or I shouldn't even say about really, but just of people and their kids and just how, I hate to use this word, but I guess how misbehaved, their kids are and can be, So really, I kind of want to talk to you about that because I mean, at the end of the day, um, you know, your kid is, the future of this country. You know what I mean? I'm really interested to see, especially with you being, such a close friend of mine and have been for a while. I'm really interested on, I guess kind of your and your wife's approach to, raising a kid. Because your kid's what, 4 now, or getting ready to be 4, or
Getting ready to be
or
three.
getting ready to be 4.
Getting ready to be three. But yeah,
Okay, getting ready to be
close.
3. Okay, so he's still, I mean, he's still pretty young.
Yeah.
Um, but and especially, with you here recently, really, stepping into your faith. I'm also very interested to see, or to see how that, or if it has, how that's changed, your parenting style. But I guess starting off, before, when you and your wife found out you guys were pregnant, what was kind of your thought process? I mean, were you nervous? Were you excited? I mean,
Uh, yeah. So obviously, we kind of both knew at the time that we wanted to have one. Like that had been a conversation for about a year at that point that, do we want to, want to have a kid? At first she didn't want to, and I did, and then it kind of quickly turned into, yeah, like within that year, she was like, all right, yeah, no, I'm ready. Uh, so, we weren't surprised. I mean, you as surprised as you
mhm.
can still be of, oh wow, no, this is actually happening now. We're putting a plan in motion and it's actually unfolding what we kind of talked about. So it makes it surreal, right? I mean, you could plan something all day and then when it actually happens, you're still gonna get that initial shock with something as life-changing as having a kid. Um, so I would say no, like we weren't like, like stressed too much besides the normal stressors that anybody that has had a kid can all agree with, that unless you've already had one, right? But I still even feel like once you've already had one, there's still a little bit of stressors like, oh, this is surreal. Like we actually have to now financially plan for this or mentally prepare for this. Now every day that you go somewhere, it's not just going to be two people. Now you got to prepare for another, right? So yeah, but nah, we were both pretty. It was more of the get the mental right, understand that now we're about to be parents. Hopefully that answered your question well enough.
Right. No, it did. It did. Well, that's good. I know, I know some people too, personally, that yeah, they planned on having a kid, but they didn't have a plan, if that makes sense. So, I mean, were you guys kind of uh, I don't want to say freeballing it, but I mean, as far as your parenting style goes, were you guys kind of okay, this is where we kind of want to be at, or was it just kind of we'll kind of figure it out as we go.
So yeah, it started off as, I mean, and I feel like most people can like agree, like you see how your parents parented, obviously, like that's what made you, and you try to get the goods and the bads, and you try to weed them out, right? Like, oh, I liked how my parents did this, so I'm gonna do that. Oh, I didn't like how they did this, so I'm not gonna do that, right? So I feel like that's how we kind of talked like we were gonna do at first, which obviously, like, I mean, uh my upbringing, even though we're in the same city, was completely different than the wife's. So um yeah, so she had a different like parenting style in her head of what she expected than I did. Um, so I guess we kind of planned out it was more leaning towards the gentle parenting side before we had a kid. And yeah, so I wouldn't say we freeballed it. I mean, obviously each scenario comes with its own things, but we definitely prepared for more of a gentle parenting side.
Why is that?
Um, to be honest with you, it's probably just because that's how society kind of pushes you towards now. Um, society's all about, oh, discipline is bad. Don't discipline. Oh, you gave them a spanking. Oh, that's abuse. So I would say that's probably why we did that.
Okay. And I mean, I'm assuming 3 years in, you guys are still kind of taking that approach.
Gentle parenting.
Yeah. You guys still kind of take the gentle parenting approach, or is that kind of changed a little bit now that he's a little bit older? I mean, from a baby at least.
Uh, I would say that, yeah, like no. I would say no, we're not gentle, because at the same time I'm raising a young man, you know. So I don't want him, like, obviously he's allowed to have fun. He's a kid at the end of the day, he's a child. But I want him to have good morals, and I quickly found out that I feel like a lot of our problems as like children having problems today is because of gentle parenting. Because the gentle parenting doesn't teach consequence. It teaches times outs, which that aren't really consequences, right? I mean, that's just like how the prison
Right.
system works now. Oh, you get in trouble, we're gonna put you in this prison. We're not gonna teach you anything better to do, and then we're just gonna expect you to
Right.
leave and be better. Like, so I don't know. Like, that's just kind of how I look at it. So, and I would say that yes, stepping into the religion side. I know you asked that at the beginning. Definitely changed a lot of how I look at things. Um, and I mean, like, just look at me. Like, like I had a lot of problems in my youth and how I interpreted things. So and as any father, you know, you're gonna be the only person in your kids' life, especially your son, right? You're gonna be the only person in their life, besides grandparents, right? That genuinely want this young man, this young human being, to be better than you. Like I genuinely would like, because I could tell you all day as my friend that I'm happy for you and I want you to do good, but there's always going to be that side effect of, well, now I got to grind harder because you're getting better, right? And that's just a natural thing. I'm happy for you every day, right? I pray for you every day, but there's still that side of me that is that human in me that goes, Nathaniel's doing good right now and I feel down, so I want to do better myself, right? But
Right.
but I could see my son doing something amazing and I feel accomplished because I'm the product of him getting like that, if that makes sense. You know? Um so yeah, I don't know. I just feel like a lot of days it and I feel like gentle parenting is also like another reason for it, in the product of it is a lot for parents to be hands off, you know and that's not how we want to operate. Like, don't get me wrong, like we're gonna let him learn and do things, but we're there. We are present, and I'll let him fall, but I'll be right there to pick him back up And then that's not necessarily holding his hand though, It's all right, Bubba, you got this. Get back up. Do it again. Do it again. Oh, you fell climbing up that? You didn't get hurt? All right, get up, do it again then. We're not leaving. Do it again. Because it's just you're trying to teach success, and success doesn't always happen on the first time around.
No, that's fair. That's fair. Um, so like one thing that I'm really like, because yeah, I'm not gonna say that. Well, one thing I am, I guess, worried about, maybe not worried about, but I guess for lack of a better term, worried about when if I ever have kids, is like dealing with anger. You know what I mean? Because I don't feel like I'm an angry person, but I'm also a very, like, I don't want to say in control person, but in control person. You know what I mean? Like if something's going on that I'm like, well, I don't have any control over this, then I get a little overwhelmed. You know what I mean? So I mean, well, how do you deal? Because I'm sure your son's upset you, but I mean, how do you deal with that, and how has stepping into your faith more, I guess, changed that, how you deal with that? I don't know if I worded that well at all. Probably not.
I feel like you asked that very well. Um, that is a great question. So, this is something I'm currently still dealing with, and I don't think that I will ever be done dealing with this. Um, I obviously was a very angry person, and I didn't realize how angry. Like, I always knew I was angry, but then I was like, I'm getting better, and then I didn't realize how angry of a person I truly was until I stepped into the faith. And not only just how angry I was, but how much that actually had an effect on the rest of my life, like how I played out my day, my posture of my heart, the posture of my thoughts, um, and and it wasn't also until I read Proverbs that I really realized how much of a fool I was because of how I let my anger dictate how I was going to do something. Um, so then bringing that back, so yes, I mean, the real reason I even kind of stepped into the faith, really, like, and I wouldn't, obviously where I'm at now has been a journey, right? But even the reason I started to think about the faith was because of having a son, right? I looked up statistics on. I'm getting off a little off topic. Remind me if I to jump back in where your actual
No,
question
you're
was.
good.
But I looked up statistics on parenting, what was like, good roles, and it was like a statistic that um, Christian based children, family, uh,
Mm-hmm.
stayed together, and that the kids were less likely to become problems in society, right?
Right.
Less likely to commit crimes. And I
Right.
can't remember the exact percent on this. And then I was like, okay, so obviously I don't want to force my son to be a Christian if he chooses not to be. Okay, so then I looked up, all right, what's the most likelihood of him becoming Christian? And it said that 70% of kids will take on the religion of the father. So boom, instantly, that's quick for me. The wife at the time actually was, she was kind of like an atheist. Well, what's that in this?
Mm-hmm.
Like, she believed something, but she didn't believe in Jesus and stuff. Well, I
Right.
kind of had to sit down with her before she gave birth, and we kind of like hashed it out. And I was just like, boom, and it's hard unless you're just completely oblivious and just are so stuck in your opinions. You can't argue with the statistics, right? I mean, if they're from a valid source and you see multiple statistics, you're just ignorant now at that point to argue that, right? So I show her the statistics, and she goes, all right. Boom, she starts looking into it. And yeah, so we've both decided within the next couple months that yeah, we'll step into this and see what happens, right? Um and I would tell you that yeah, it wasn't real Christianity when it first started, right? It was just a concept of, yeah, we believe, right? And
Yeah, right.
it's modern day
And nothing wrong with
believe,
that.
not biblical belief. It was just like, cool, we're Christian, and yeah, you're right. So cool. Going in from there, obviously, so at that point when we were first born, still, I didn't even read the Bible. I watched videos, if anything, and it was more like documentaries, just kind of talking about things that happened, right? Um, and then so anger was very like I still wasn't controlling it at all. So no, I would say there was a lot of times that like the inconveniences.
Mm-hmm.
And that I feel like that comes with anybody that, like I feel like it's relatable at the same time. You just don't hear about it as much. But like, and not in the inconvenience of having a kid, it's just like the more it seems like an inconvenience at first, because it's like, I gotta get ready for myself, and now I gotta get him ready, and then we gotta go. And something that could just be a quick, we run into the store. Now it's not a quick run into the store. I gotta get him out of the car. I gotta put him into a shopping cart. Push the buggy in. Now I gotta bring the buggy out, and then I gotta put him back. It's everything now is a process. It's not as easy as just, hey, let's go get in the car and we're going. It's
Right.
nah. All right, we gotta get him ready.
It's a little bit slower.
Yes,
Yeah.
everything's more time consuming. So not an inconvenience, it's just more of a, I don't know a better word, because like inconvenience just sounds bad. Like, oh, it's an inconvenience, because it's not that. I just don't have a better word for it, to be honest with you. So, but yeah. So, with all that like it's just those short little moments, and then on top of that, you're getting tired. You're just constantly tired, especially in that first beginning part, because you don't even know how to manage your sleep, because you never had to actually think about managing your sleep to this extent. On top of that, you're going to work, you're doing all these things. On top of that, your wife's getting frustrated because she's not sleeping. On top of that, this and this and that, right? It's just, it all builds up. And I feel like if anybody that watches this is stepping into parenthood, like those are the conversations, or you as the parent of whichever parent that is does decide to watch this, take it upon yourself to lead these conversations of taking a moment, talk about it. Like that is a big thing that people take for granted. Conversation is key to just a basic one-on-one relationship. So now when you add another living human into that is your flesh and blood that you genuinely care about, it's easy to get sidetracked and start to slip when it's something as just one sit down can repair so much. Um, yeah. So then back to the topic of dealing with anger. So yeah, I would say that my best point that I've been at has been in the last 6 months. And that's when I really I stepped into what you would truly define, like, or trying to be a true Christian, right? I've found a lot more than I just, a modern day believe, but actually I've started looking up, because like when I say modern day believe is like, hey, I believe I'm talking to you right now. Like, oh, I believe that 2 + 2 is 4. I guess like, that's a bad way to explain that.
Yeah.
I believe George Washington existed. I never met the man, but I believe.
Oh,
But
okay,
he put
okay.
doctrine in the way, but I'm not going to follow that doctrine because I just believe in him. So now I would say that the Greek word meant for believing is to put your faith in. So, grace by faith. And faith is like the biggest part of Christianity. And because I have so much faith in Jesus, and because I have my belief in Jesus, I'm going to abide in him. And I'm not perfect. So like don't take it as, oh, now I'm going to be a sinless human being. No, but like I am so grateful for everything I've seen him do in my life that I'm going to follow him. And if he tells me to do something, I'm going to try to my utmost ability to do that. And I'm going to fall. I've failed so many times, But it's just the fact that, what's that one? I think it's Paul that says it, like the righteous fall 7 times, but they get back up and go again. But I can't remember the other word, but they fall once and they fall into calamity. And it's just or the unrighteous. So it's basically like, like you're going to keep falling, but just keep getting back up again in the name of Jesus, right? Call on Jesus. He's going to be your backbone. He's going to be the one that picks you up. And as long as you abide in him, you're going to be fine. So that's where I'm at now. And obviously I've been reading the Bible a lot. I try to read at least two times a day, sometimes more. I find myself doom scrolling. Boom, I got the Bible app, pull that bad boy out. I'm starting reading. But yeah, man, Proverbs, dude. If you guys or any of y'all are interested in reading the Bible, and not even just for like to follow Jesus thing, but you just want some actual mental like benefits and to get yourself right, read Proverbs. It spoke to me on another level of me just realizing how much of a fool I was. Like genuinely was a fool, man. I mean, you could watch past podcasts, dude. I didn't think much before I spoke. I just spoke. And I was down to say the dumbest things, and I would call myself stupid, and you didn't have to because I was going to say it, and I would say a lot now is just managing that anger. On top of that, what comes with that is managing the things that come out of your mouth, right? Because I also found out that a lot of the times I was angry was because of my own actions. If you're in a conversation with somebody and you see yourself getting upset and they're not going to change how they are ways, why are you continuing in that conversation? Walk away, you know? And it's just, it's being that intelligent being of yourself and knowing yourself that you don't have to be a part of every situation. There's a lot of times we think, oh, I gotta one up this person. I gotta get this person in a gotcha moment. No, because there's and a lot of times nowadays you're never gonna get that gotcha moment because people are so ignorant to them being wrong and so in the disbelief that they can't be wrong that you're never gonna actually satisfy that if you were going for that anyways. So I don't know. I feel like I kind of trailed off a little bit from it, but I would
No,
say
you're good.
a lot of my getting out of my angry spots is yeah, just relying on Jesus, man, and reading Proverbs. I read that. I find myself going back to it, just rereading it and trying to just live my life towards the Bible, and the best I can.
Awesome. Love to hear that, man. Um, yeah, so, kind of going back, circling back here, because you kind of said, uh, you said, having a son is like doing things. It just takes more time. So, uh, like with your line of work, okay, you were, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but you were kind of used to kind of doing what you want to an extent, obviously. I mean, you still had a wife at the time, or you still had a wife, you have to take into consideration, but that's a lot different, obviously from having a child, you know. But I mean, obviously, well, what change, like, how do I want to word this here? Like, you being able to kind of do what you want and, not like spend however much you want on, but like how has that changed with now having a child? Now you gotta think, okay, well, I have a kid, I can't do this now, or I probably shouldn't do this, or I really want this but I can't buy it because I've got my kid I got to think about financially. How has that kind of changed, since having a kid?
Yeah. Uh, I mean, never really did a podcast on like our upbringings, but um, I I obviously didn't come from a wealthy background. Um, that being said, I feel like I understood money a lot better than a lot of people, and understood the value of having a savings, having a rainy day fund, because when things go bad, they get worse. Like once you have to
Right.
spend one big check, it just always so happens to be that you spend a lot more. Um, and so I was mentally prepared already to have a savings and build up that money. And I would say that I've honestly loosened up more since having a kid. But I do say my bank account is a lot more money now that I will not allow it to go under because of having a family and because having a son. Or a kid in general. But I would say that yes, it changes just because mainly, right? I mean, I have insurance and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
health insurance, but it is not uncommon for that health insurance for some reason, and that goes for a lot of health insurances to bounce back at one point, and now you still need, for some reason you need this, or you need this medicine or this thing right now. They need a down payment or something. I do not want to be in the position where I don't have something to put front to then deny my son or my wife some kind of attention that is needed. Um, so yeah, I would say that yeah, it's just making sure that I don't drop below a certain amount at all times. I know a lot of people try to live by at least 6 months of savings of your daily
Mm-hmm.
life. 6 months worth that you could not be without food and without shelter and stuff like that. So I would say that that's kind of I took that a little bit further, and I have about a year's worth. Um, but yeah, I mean, so in that case, also, like, I would say that I also think I need to do better. I don't want to have a spoiled son. Um, not
Right.
so I think that we've recently had that conversation that because you you change your life so much, and then you'll notice one thing, but you can't, and then you notice this other thing, and you got to pick and choose what is more vital to change right now, right? What is more detrimental that we have to fix this right now, and we can fix the next one later on, for you're not overwhelming yourself and then over stressing where then you don't fix anything. um so now to the point where we were still like, oh, we go to the store, you're hungry and you want a candy bar because it's just quick, and you felt like, we did enough today, let's get that candy bar. Well, now it's kind of in our son's brain that every time we're at a store he gets candy because we get candy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's like, we can't not get you candy and get ourselves candy. So now we got to stop eating candy because you don't need candy, because we're also trying to teach healthy eating cycles. So yeah, I'd say that's another thing that we've been trying to fix here recently. I would say he's definitely like stepping into that pretty easily, but he's always liked vegetables and stuff. So now maybe his sweet is some blueberries or something, because they're sweet and he thinks it tastes like candy too. Or we're getting natural like fruit chewies that are still healthy. They're
Right.
not they're not like the healthiest thing, but it's better than a candy bar. And so
Right.
yeah, it's
Right.
just teaching, we also like just stepped into getting like a chores chart. So like, he does his chores throughout the day, he gets stickers, and at the end maybe he gets ice cream now. So instead of, hey, we're gonna get you candy because you were good today, it's like, hey, nah, you get a big boy sticker today instead of the little star sticker. And at the end, instead of getting just one ice cream, maybe we go to Chuck E. Cheese or something, you know so stuff like that.
Chuck E. Cheese is still around? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it is still around.
I didn't know that. Interesting. I thought, yeah, yeah, interesting. Okay. um, that's okay. Cool. So what? One more. Well, one other thing I'm really interested with you at least, and you kind of touched on it, a little bit before, but like, um, basically raising your son in a Christian household, you know. Um, obviously, you don't really want to force anything on him, um, but I mean, what is that like? Trying to, because I mean, he's getting ready to be 3, right?
Hmm.
So it's like, I mean, yeah, the thought process. I mean, he has a thought process, obviously, but some certain things obviously aren't quite like it's not there. If that makes sense, you know what I mean? Like he's not going to understand certain things to an extent that like me or you would understand something to be, you know. Um, so I mean, how is that? Raising a child, um, in a Christian way.
So, yeah. So, right. So, I mean, I'm still maturing in my faith, right? I mean, he's been around on this earth for almost 3 years now, and I've actually only stepped into the true believing part, the true faith walk about 6 months ago. So, I'm still maturing in my own faith. But I think that's a lot of, you know, yeah, he doesn't understand, but it's laying good groundwork, right? So my faith,
Mm-hmm.
and if anybody, I'm sure you know what Christianity is, right? Is this is is a love, right? Like I'm trying to build a relationship with God, with Jesus, and I believe in the end, this what this gets me is salvation with Jesus, right? So I get to be with my heavenly Father at the end. So in the end, that's saving me from eternal away from, which what you would call hell. So what do I so understanding that piece, that this is something that saves your life, right? It saves your eternity. Okay? So if you as a parent know keeping your son away from the street, teaching him good street habits, good eating habits, good, just discipline in general, because you're like, oh, I don't want you to go play in the road because I know you could get hit by the car and that could kill you, right? You're going to keep them out of the way from that street. You're going to try everything you can possibly to keep them from running into that road. Okay. So I would say that I treat it the same way. As of right now, I'm teaching the groundworks of it, right? Hey, we pray, we give thanks. Uh, I tell him who Jesus is. I talk about Jesus consistently. Um, you know, uh, I give a lot of thanks, right? Hey, thank you for this food. He sees it as daddy's putting food on the plate. I see it as Jesus has blessed me in a way to be able to put this food on the plate, right? And that is, and my understanding, like, or where I'm at now, is I'm seeing all the works that Jesus has done in my life, even without me believing, right? So I'm very grateful now to be where I'm at. Um, and that's just because of all the situations I've also been in my life. There's been a lot of times Jesus could have called or allowed things to happen or me to take an opposite turn that I very well not have been here. Um, so,
Right.
it's just me trying to correct and instill a good moral in my son, and to the point where it's like, yeah, I'm not trying to force it on him, but if I lay the good groundwork, right, he sees the love that dad has for Jesus, he might want to love Jesus because Jesus loves him, right? So it's like, just all right, hey, my dad really loves Jesus, he lives for Jesus, my dad's a good person, has good morals because of his love for Jesus, right? So, um, and some people would say that as like, oh, you're grooming or something, right? Something like
Yeah.
that. But okay, you teaching your son to not run in the road is technically grooming at that point, if that's how you want to look at it, right? You just dumb it down to the furthest extent. It is what it is. You teaching your son your own morals is grooming. So it's naturally going to happen. But yeah, so laying the good groundwork, so then when he is old enough to make the self decision, he hopefully makes the right decision. Um, and because, like, obviously, right, so I can't force him once he turns of an old enough age to make his own personal decisions. So I would say that's usually about 16 to 18. They start to fully decide and have that cognitive thought process to believe in something, that, yeah, he just sees the love that I have for Jesus and chooses to, hopefully follow me. Follow me to follow Jesus, if that makes sense.
Right. Well, I was gonna say because I know it's probably a really small percentage overall, but I mean I know a decent amount of people, that are our age, maybe a little bit older, maybe a little bit younger, but people that grew up Catholic, Christian, whatever, religious, in a religious household. And, now you talk to them about it and they're just like, no, I don't, like they don't want nothing to do with it. So that's kind of, but I mean, given a lot of those people, I feel like their parents were very hardcore with it, if that makes sense, so yeah, that's one thing that interests me, like definitely when he's older, is he gonna stick with it? I mean, that'd be great if he did, but I know a lot of people that kind of get turned off by it, which is really unfortunate, but I guess it is what it is.
And I understand that, and I think it's because and I'm not, gonna say I know exactly how those parents are doing things. But I feel like a lot of people step in the role of religion more than a role of this is a relationship. That's why I
Right,
keep
yeah, I could agree
emphasizing
with that.
I do things because I love Jesus, not because I want to go to heaven. It's because heaven is wherever Jesus is, and 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 you got to teach why you love Jesus. What has Jesus done for me? For I could teach to him, so he hopefully doesn't have to go through the heartache, go through the trauma, go through those long nights of, just being a drunkard, that I had to go through, so he could just be a better person. Like I said at the beginning, I don't want him to ever have to go through half the things I've gone through in my life. Because I've already gone through it, I hope that he can learn from it, and instead of the time that I took standing still or stepping backwards in my life, he can start right where I put him at and go further.
Right, right. Okay. Um, interesting. Um, so, well, another thing that, especially with, I guess where you're located at. Okay. Well, he's not in school yet, right?
No.
I don't know when kids start school. What
Uh
is that, like 5 or
3 to
6
4
maybe,
they
something
can
like that?
start
Three to four.
because you can be taking them to daycare and stuff like that, but usually about 4 they
Mhm.
go to pre-K, and then 5 actually, preschool, or yeah, kindergarten.
Okay, so it's coming up, and I'm sure it'll be here before you know it.
Yeah.
So okay, so well, have you guys? I mean, like I said, it's coming up, and I mean, have you guys decided or at least narrowed down, some schools you might be sending him to, or what does that look like?
Homeschool. I think it's going to be homeschool, if not going to a Christian school. um but yeah, I'd say it's probably going to be homeschooling.
Okay, I know a lot of people are going to that, man. Public schools, even the school we went to. I mean, it's not technically, well, I think it is now, technically, but when we went there, it wasn't a public school technically. Um, but man, that place was still a hot mess, in my opinion. Um, but okay, well, because I was kind of wondering, I mean, no one can really tell the future, but I was kind of wondering, um, like if the school is doing A, B, and C, but you guys are like, well, we don't like that. I was kind of wondering how that might go. But if you guys are homeschooling him, then
And that's the main reason, right? Um, I I mean, we've seen it a lot more today, and I'm not saying every school's like this, but I don't want my son to be learning. If he goes to math class, he needs to be learning math. I don't want him learning English from a math teacher. You get what I'm saying? And like and that goes even further than that, right? I'm not sending him to an English teacher or an even better. I'm not sending him to an art teacher to learn English. All right, you teach him how to draw that picture. Don't teach him how to write a book because that ain't obviously what you went to school for. So don't be teaching that. Um, so that's where we're at, right? And you know, um, so yeah, I'd say it's as simple as that.
no, that's fair. That's fair. Well, kind of along with that, I mean, I don't know how many friends that you have, that you talk to on a regular basis that have kids. But I mean, you have parents, your son's got grandparents. So how do you guys deal with, especially people whose opinion you guys hold, people restart here, especially when it comes to people whose opinion holds a lot of weight to you guys. Okay, how do you guys kind of deal with advice, like unsolicited advice, let's just say that, or even not necessarily unsolicited advice, just advice, but you guys hear it and you're like, okay, well, that might not be it for us, or maybe it is. How do you guys kind of deal with advice you get from your peers, or even your guys' parents?
I'd say that it's easier for us than it might be for others, and I would say that we're usually only getting advice when we ask for advice. Um, and because I don't live near grandparents, they don't see our day to day, but what they do see is how when they do come visit, they see how well our son does in things. And I feel like the only time they give advice is where they see a lack in his response or his actions, right? If that makes sense. A lack in how he responds to things, so they give advice to better that. So I'm not saying that's for everybody, right? But I mean, if I seen you had a son and I see him well behaved, there's no point for me to give you advice. Your son's doing great, right? Um, so I just, in my scenario, that's kind of how I see it. My son's pretty well behaved, and he's still a 2 year about to be 3 year old, so he's a menace in my eyes. But that's because I live with him. But
Yeah.
he knows, he knows when he can be a kid and when it's time. Like, all right, hey, when we're at the store, you don't go running away from me because you've seen society. There's so much like there's kids getting snatched up, dude. Like you don't run from me at the store. You don't run towards the road. Like things like that. You just establish good roles, good techniques. As soon as they start to pick up on things, like the first time I taught, hey, we don't go to the road, is as soon as he could point out where the road was. Hey, where's the street at? Boom, he points at the street. Hey, we do not go to the street without mommy or daddy. Like you emphasize things like that. Cool, we're at the store. You do not leave mommy and daddy's sight. Yeah, that is not happening. I will pick you up and we will go home. You like, it's just stuff like that that you establish good roles like that, and you keep building on things like that. You good foundations. There's really not place to give advice.
Okay. Um, well, with that, do you have any advice for parents out there might be listening?
I mean, everybody's gonna say, or everybody's gonna end up doing their own thing. um I would say discipline things that could cause immediately bodily harm, or things that you cannot recover from. And I know I keep highlighting running to the road, right? Like stuff like that, you don't get second chances from. And that's something that you can directly teach and mitigate from, right? Like obviously there could always be that one off that happens, but it's less likely to have that one off if you put the good discipline in then, right? Establish the discipline now. Change it. Um uh Look at kids today or any kid that you've ever seen that you've been around and you're like, "Wow, I don't want my son or my daughter to act like that." And then see what parenting techniques they do, and maybe you should do the opposite.
Okay. Well, this is my last question here. It's kind of a loaded question, you know.
All right.
So put your thinking cap on. All right. So what does having a son mean to you?
Wow. Uh it means a lot, dude. You know, it actually made me tear up a little bit. It means a lot, dude. Just trying to be a better person in general. I feel like just being a father and together, is just just being a better person. Um Being a great role model that um when he gets older, he he just looks back on, wow, like my dad was a great person. I have good morals because of my dad. When he goes to do a situation, he goes, what would my dad do in this situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just being somebody that he knows that yes, I discipline, but I love him equally. And I only discipline out of love. There's nothing that I do in his life that isn't for love. I genuinely want the best for him. And so that and then what that comes with is a lot of that's not is things that you don't say. You just do. He sees dad do good things. He sees my actions. Actions speak louder than words, and I know everybody's heard that, and that is true. You know, um, so yeah, I just being a better me for he's a better him, and he has a good role model to look up to.
That's amazing, man. That is beautiful. That is beautiful. Yeah. Anything else? Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, hey, if you're thinking about having a kid, just get your mental right and do it. You're never gonna get there's never gonna be a better time. If you're waiting on the right time, there's never gonna be the right time. Um, that also being said, um, you know, uh, do everything you can to make your kid the best person they can be. And I reiterate this a lot because it really matters, because you only get so many you 18 years is a small gap, and within those 18 years statistically, especially if you send them to school, your time as you being a parent that you can put the most into them is from 0 to 5 years old. That's not very long for you to establish good morals. And obviously if you homeschool you have a lot more, but like and you're going to be tired, but just remember that they're only at these stages in life once, and it goes by so quick. So yeah, you're tired and you want to go sit on your phone and watch TV. Hey, it's sunny outside. How about you go take and play some catch or go kick a ball around? And it's low, like those are low activities that you don't necessarily have to get so where you're sprinting up and down, a track or something with them, but it shows that you genuinely care and you want to be spend time with them. And I'm not criticizing anybody, because I find myself doing that sometimes too. But a lot of times I remind myself that, like, hey, like as much as I want to watch TV, he wants to go outside. So let's just go outside, and remember that your phone will always be there, but your son won't, or your kid won't always be this age. So how about you put that down too and spend some one-on-one time with them?
Awesome. Awesome. Hey, if you've watched to this point, like, subscribe, leave a comment, and we'll see you on the next one.
Peace.